Song of Solomon, chapter 2. Now, so far, we have talked about attraction and we talked about dating. They are linked together because you will end up dating someone you're attracted to. So, who you are attracted to matters, and you better be attracted to someone of high character. You better care more about character than you do about the outward appearance. And tonight, we're going to add another link to the chain. Tonight, we're going to add another step to the process. It goes from attraction to dating to tonight, courtship. Now, courtship is more than dating because it is total commitment. There are expectations that come along with it. This is another level, and you can be deeply hurt in this stage because you're moving toward marriage. When you're dating someone, yes, you can get hurt. Okay, you can get hurt when you're dating someone. But when you move to this next stage of courtship and you begin talking about your lives together for the rest of your lives, if that ends, then you can be deeply hurt. Deeply, deeply hurt. The word courtship implies treating someone courtly, treating someone like a prince or princess. If dating is browsing a store, courtship is buying something and taking it home. Okay? If dating is just browsing in a store, oh, that looks cute. I'm going to go try it on. Oh, that's nice. You know, that fits well. Courtship is buying something and taking it home and owning it. So you better date someone with great character. You better date someone who loves the Lord, because eventually someone that you date, you're going to stop browsing and you're going to buy, and it better be a good one. It better be a good one. So let's continue to look at this couple, Solomon and his beloved, and how they cultivate their courtship. I'm going to give you 4 things tonight that should be cultivated in courtship. So I gave you 4 things last week, 4 R's last week, that should be in dating: regard, respect, revelry, and restraint. Tonight, I'm going to give you 4 things that should be cultivated inside of courtship. When you move to a more serious relationship where you start thinking and talking about forever, these are some things that should be cultivated. Number 1, cultivating excitement. Cultivating excitement. I'm going to explain what I mean by that. In verses 8 and 9 of chapter 2, here's what we read. The voice of my beloved, behold, he comes, leaping over the mountains, bounding over the hills. My beloved is like a gazelle or a young stag. Behold, there he stands behind our wall, gazing through the windows and looking through the lattice. He is excited to get to her. She's excited about him trying to get to her. Every time they are apart, they cannot wait until they can be back together. This is what happens when dating moves into courtship, is there is this excitement that happens where you can't stand being apart. Time is kindling. Time just makes the fire burn brighter. Time proves that you want to get closer and closer to the person. Draw near to the person. Jessica and I started dating when I was 17 years old. Okay. In my mind, we dated for 1 month and then we started courting. Now, it took her a little bit longer before she got to that place. But in my mind, I told her I loved her after a month. I told her, if you don't ever break up with me, we'll be together forever. I told my parents that I told her that. My parents didn't make fun of me. They asked me questions. Why do you think this? Why are you saying this? What does it? You tell me what love means to you. And those weren't always the greatest of answers. But But I knew pretty quickly. By the time I went to college, my freshman year of college, I went off 3.5 hours away and she stayed here. By then, we both knew this is the person I'm going to spend the rest of my life with. We were in, be quiet please, we were in the courting stage of our relationship. I gave her a promise ring and told her, this promise ring, I want you to wear it until I can exchange it with an engagement ring. But this is my promise to you that you are the one that I want. She was here. I was 3.5 hours away at HPU. But every chance that I got in my Mazda 626, my green Mazda 626. They don't even have those anymore. And I would drive back here just to spend a little bit of time with her. I mean, it got to the point where during the basketball season, we would play a basketball game at 3 o'clock on Saturday. It would end about 5. I would get out of town about 6, grab some food, drive here to spend about 12 hours of time with Jessica before Sunday night I'd have to drive 3.5 hours back to Howard Payne. So I would drive 7.5 hours or 7 hours in 24 hours just to spend 12 hours with her. But this was what I wanted. I don't regret ever. I didn't regret ever coming back to see her. Nope, no questions. This is what courtship cultivates. It cultivates a desire to be with each other in a way that dating doesn't even come close. Because this is your beloved. Second thing, verses 10 through 13, you begin cultivating life. My beloved speaks and says to me, arise, my love, my beautiful one, and come away. For behold, the winter is past, the rain is over and gone, the flowers appear on the earth, the time of singing has come, the voice of the turtle dove is heard in our land, the fig tree ripens its figs, the vines are in blossom, they give forth fragrance. Arise, my love, my beautiful one, and come away. What time of year are we talking about right here? Spring. The flowers are blooming, the fig tree is ripening, the vine is blossoming, winter is gone. We are in springtime. And in springtime, in our culture, just like in their culture, springtime was a time that was symbolic of life and growth. It wasn't just really happening, it was also a picture of growth and life. A good, God-honoring courtship does not bring a lot of regret or rot in the relationship, but it brings about life and growth and maturity. I cannot tell you in the 6 years, almost 6 years that Jessica and I were together before we got married, how I grew and matured. It's interesting. There were a lot of guys that dated girls in college. When I was in college, they dated a lot of girls, but they never had one that was settled. And they were perpetually in kind of an immature state. They never really grew up. While I already knew this is the one I'm going to marry, and this is the ministry, I'm going to go into ministry. And so I had a sense of, I need to grow up. My spiritual life needs to grow just to keep up with this woman that I was with. So in courtship, the two people, the woman and the man, the guy and the girl, should thrive spiritually during this time. If you are with someone and you're dating somebody and you move from dating to courtship and that person does not push you spiritually to grow and be better, this may not be the person for you. Because a God-honoring courtship should push each other to grow spiritually, to mature spiritually. So that's the second thing. Cultivate this excitement, this longing, this desire to be with each other in a way that's different than just dating. And then you need to cultivate life and maturity in the relationship. Third, cultivating discovery. Verse 14, O my dove, in the clefts of the rock, in the crannies of the cliff, let me see your face, let me hear your voice, for your voice is sweet and your face is lovely. So here's the picture here. She is a dove. By the way, I think this is really cool. You remember when she doesn't think she's beautiful. Remember, I'm lovely, but I've got this physical drawback, she thinks. And remember last week he called her a dove. I think you probably went over this. Your eyes are a dove, right? And we talked about treating that, how he would treat her with gentleness and tenderness and softness. Now, guess what she calls herself? I'm a dove. You know why that's important? He was treating her in such a way she began to believe what he said about her. And now she says, I'm a dove in the cleft of a rock. Okay? Now, here's the picture. A dove is hidden away, hiding in the cleft of a rock to protect itself. Okay? She's saying, I'm a dove in the cleft of the rock, but I want to see you. I want to hear your voice. I want to see your face. What she's saying is, I want to discover more about you. I want to know more about you. And listen to me. In dating, you don't have to have all the deep, serious conversations. You don't. Courtship, it's time to have some serious conversations. It's time to talk about your past. It's time to talk about your goals. It's time to talk about the deep things in your life. It's time to not hide from the person any insecurities that you may have or anything that you don't like. It's time to show all that and discover all that in one another. You know, when you're dating, you literally put on the greatest appearance that you possibly can, right? You put on like a front for this person, right? So when you go on a first date with somebody, girls, you're probably going to try to look your best. Guys, you're probably going to try to look your best, right? You'll try to even hide any of the insecurities that you may have, any flaws that you may have. Girls, you'll put on makeup, and guys, I'm not even saying you'll be opposed to grabbing some cover up a little bit, be like, put a little something on there right there. I have blemishes too. That's from Parks and Rec. But you'll want to hide all the blemishes and the flaws and present yourself at your best. When you get to courtship, it's time to get real. It's time to get real. I have to know who you are. You have to know who I am. We've got to have deep discussions. We've got to work to discover who we are. And we accept one another with openness and gentleness. I want to say something right here. Listen to me very carefully. If you date someone and y'all start getting serious, and at some point you begin talking about this person may be the person for me, and you begin having some real conversations about your past and your life, and that person can't handle what you've said to them, you get vulnerable and you get real and you get honest and they can't handle it, oh, you better run from that. Because that's the attitude that person's going to have when you get married too. What happens when you mess up when you get married or you sin against that person? If they don't accept you with forgiveness and gentleness and love, we got a problem. A big, big problem. Do you know why people don't want to get vulnerable? Because it's risky. It's risky to get vulnerable. When you open up to somebody and you get real and you get vulnerable, you're afraid that person's going to see it and not love you. But let me tell you what a courtship, a God-honoring courtship should be. Listen, you know what a God-honoring courtship should be? Where you open up and you get vulnerable and that person says, I see you and I love you. I see what you've been through. I see your flaws. I see the things that you're working on. I see you and I love you. I'm not going anywhere. I'm right here. That's why you have to cultivate discovery. Lastly, you have to cultivate problem solving. What? Verse 15. Catch the foxes for us, the little foxes that spoil the vineyards, for our vineyards are in blossom. Now, one of the greatest enemies to a vineyard are foxes. Because foxes will get into the vineyard before the vineyard is fully ripe, and they will destroy all the fruit. So the fruit begins to blossom, and before it's fully ripe, what will happen is the foxes will come in, and they'll nip at all of that, and they'll destroy the vineyard. She's saying, I need you to catch those foxes and get them out of the vineyard. What does this mean? What she is saying, if there is anything in our relationship that is a problem, anything in our relationship that would cause issues, anything in our relationship that doesn't honor God, we need to track it down and get rid of it. Now, this will be an ongoing process. This isn't a one-time thing. It's not like you just catch the foxes one time and you're like, all right, never again will we have any problems. But here in this courtship time, chasing down the foxes, getting the problems, dealing with the problems, solving the problems in a relationship becomes a priority. When you're dating somebody, guess what? If a problem arises, you break up. We break up. Forget it. When you're in the courtship level and you're talking about marriage and you can't problem solve, we got an issue. And she's saying, chase down any of the issues, the problems that we've got in our relationship, and let's deal with them. Let's get them out of the vineyard. We don't want them to destroy this vineyard. You will do that the rest of your relationship with this person. You know what this takes? It takes communication. It takes listening. It takes give and take, not apathy or anger. You know what apathy is? Apathy is where you just don't really care. So one person in the relationship is talking about a problem and the other person checks out. That's an issue. Anger is the other issue. One person is talking about the problem and instead of just checking out, they come at you with anger. That's a problem. We don't solve problems that way. We solve problems in a relationship with communication and listening. Easier said than done, I understand, but that is the ultimate. I'm going to give you this statement, and I want you to write this statement down because it is very, very important. Okay? Ruptures in a relationship are not the ultimate problem. Ruptures in a relationship, write this down. Ruptures in a relationship are not the ultimate problem. But a lack of reconciliation and repair is the ultimate problem. A lack of reconciliation and repair is the ultimate problem. Guess what? When you're in a dating relationship and when you're in a courtship and when you're in a marriage, you are going to have all kinds of problems in your marriage. You're going to fight, and there's going to be ruptures that occur. The ruptures are not the problem. Every relationship has ruptures. The problem is when you don't reconcile and repair those ruptures. Foxes are always going to get in a vineyard. It's what foxes do. The ultimate problem is really not the foxes. It's your lack of desire to get the foxes out that becomes the problem. It's interesting. Some Hebrew scholars say that verse 15 is her talking about her sexuality again. Let me explain. Remember, she's already called her body a vineyard. She's going to call her body or her sexuality a vineyard 2 more times in this book. So that's a total of 3 times for sure that her body is being referenced as a vineyard. Here she says it's a vineyard again. And she says, chase or catch the foxes for us, the little foxes that spoil the vineyard, for our vineyards are in blossom. Some Hebrew scholars say what she's saying here is what we talked about last week. We've now moved to courtship. I want to be with you and you want to be with me. We want to be together intimately. And she's saying, but that being involved intimately before we're married is a fox getting into the vineyard and destroying it. Let's make sure that we're chasing those foxes down. And yes, right now, our vineyards are in bloom. We want each other. It's not the time or the place. Catch those foxes, get the foxes out. The time to be in the vineyard will be later. It's not right now. The time to eat the fruit will be later. It's not right now. Definitely what she's talking about there. Remember what she said last week? Do not awaken love until it is time. Do not awaken love until it is pleased. Once again, this is not the time for sexuality. This is not the time for sensuality. This is not the time for sex. That'll be when we're married. We're in courtship. I know that our vineyard is in bloom. I love that way of saying it. Our vineyard is in bloom for one another. Premarital sex is a fox that will destroy the vineyard. Don't do it. I want to conclude with verses 16 and 17. You don't have a point here, but I want you to see the results of a proper courtship. Look at her reaction in verses 16 and 17. My beloved is mine, and I am his. He grazes among the lilies until the day breeze and the shadows flee. Turn, my beloved, be like a gazelle or a young stag on cleft mountains. She trusts him completely. She describes herself as a sheep grazing among the lilies, completely safe. She knows him and she is safe. The result of cultivating the stuff in a courtship that you should is that you feel safe in this relationship. You feel safe in this relationship. I know you, you know me. We've had our discovery time. We've talked about who we are. We're not going anywhere. We're safe. Then she says, until the day breeze and the shadows flee. You know what that means? All night long. She wants to be with him all night long. Again, this is the way God naturally intended it. She goes on to say in chapter 3, verse 4, I want to take you to my mom's house. In other words, I want to take you to get the blessing from my mother on this relationship. So guess where a proper courtship leads? It's going to lead to marriage. It's going to lead to you getting the blessing to be with this person forever and ever and ever. That's what's happened here. A proper courtship has led this woman to say, I know you, and I'm safe, and I want you, and I want to take you to meet my mom, and I want to marry you and be with you forever. This is where courtship leads. It leads to marriage, and it leads to deeper intimacy, and that's what we'll talk about next week.